Reddit. How did you get sent to the principal's office? Eddie squirted ketchup on his hand, then slapped me. We both got in trouble for fighting. Frick you, Eddie. I didn't even do anything to you. Massachusetts has a standardized test called the MCAS. It is dumb. They had us take a pilot test to try out the history test they planned on implementing the following year. It didn't count for anything and was a waste of time. There is a big letter block where you fill in your name on the front cover. I bubbled in a dong and handed it in face up. I got suspended and my dad took me fishing because he felt the school overreacted. MCAS, Massachusetts Child A Youth System. Sigh, I've always wanted to write something extremely defiant on my MCAS. Unfortunately, my parents expect me to go to an Ivy League college. I was a junior in high school and in one of the Spanish classrooms the letters HOLA were in each of the 4 windows. I was a math tutor in the room next to it, so I put the letters ASS in 3 of the windows so it read Ashola. Suspended. Worth it. You should have said that it meant angle side side. Brought a toy lightsaber to school for show and tell. Presented it to the class because it was a kick-butt lightsaber and I even had the teacher's permission before bringing it. But then this girl in my class told the school that I had brought a weapon to school. I got a talking to from the principal but they let me keep my lightsaber. Frick you, Stacy. It was 2nd grade at Catholic school, the evening before I was watching Stargate with my dad, and unbeknownst to him, there was nudity in the movie, so the scene comes around, and my 8-year-old self saw boobs for the first time. I'm a male. My dad jumps up and shuts it off, but the damage had been done. Fast forward to the next day, and I just have to share with my fellow male classmates what I seen. So I begin to draw, very poorly, a naked woman. Well, this one kid decides it's too much to handle. He says to me, if you draw one more thing I'm telling the teacher all I had left was to draw the T. So I stare him straight in the eye and draw a line between her legs. He ran off and told the teacher what I had done, and my attempts to throw it in the trash were foiled. I had to go sit in the office and wait for a nun to talk to me about how there is nothing wrong with the female body, and that I should respect women. I've been in trouble multiple times afterwards, but this was my first, so it sticks out to me. On a side note, frick you, Brandon. Holy crap, this is hilarious. Comma drew a line between her legs. No, Ms. Nun, it isn't a T, it's a tattoo. Brandon here has a filthy mind. Drawing swastikas on my maths homework when I was 9. I was given a stern lecture on the events of World War II and the Holocaust. I just wanted to pretty up my plus signs. I shouldn't really have to say, but this was the only time I've done this. I'm not a neo-Nazi, guys. Every kid draws swastikas. Just like the S thing. It just happens. One time, when I was in high school, I was taking some standardized test. I forget which one. Anyways, it was one that had a proctor. Well, I was finished, but had to go to the bathroom. The proctor made this huge ordeal out of it and kind of pee me off. So she had to go get an administrator from down the hall to monitor me while I went. I didn't understand this because I was finished with my test. It was turned in. This was a time before everyone had cell phones, so texting friends' answers wasn't a concern. So the admin walks me to the bathroom like I'm some kind of convict, and literally stands like 15 feet away while I take a leak at the urinal. I was so freaking mad at this point. I turned to him and said, "Are you going to shake it for me when I'm done?" Needless to say, I was suspended for 2 days. I still have the discipline referral somewhere in my attic. I kept it because what I said is quoted on it. I really need to go find that and show my wife now that I'm thinking about it. Looked for the referral in the attic tonight but couldn't find it. I recently moved, so I'll ask my parents if it's at their house. Surely my father wouldn't have tossed that proud parenting moment out. I used the net send feature in command prompt to send a message to every school computer saying yo. It also happened that it froze the servers while students were taking a few hour-long computer competency exam. They had to start over. I got ISS for a few days. Haha, we used to mess around with net send in high school. Then I figured out how to use the shutdown command to turn off a computer over the network. That got out of hand real fast and I was suspended for 2 days and lost my computer lab privileges, which meant I had to drop my programming class. Worth it. My group of friends and I used to hang out in a big circle after school almost every day in the same spot. One day I get called to the office and the assistant principal shows me video footage of us in our spot from the other day and demands that I identify everyone in the group. I'm completely taken aback by all of this when I'm informed that 2 of my friends were under investigation for selling drugs. Apparently there was another recording of what looked like a drug deal, which I was not shown, and we were all under suspicion. I refused to say anything and was threatened with police action if I didn't speak. I basically ended up telling them stuff they already knew and left the office fuming with rage. Turns out my friend had just been getting in the car with his mom to go home. No drugs, no dealers, just an Indian kid getting in his mom's Toyota Camry. What the heck? For the rest of the year my friends and I would flip off the security cameras like it was our job. Well, you know what they think about us badass Indians. I faked being possessed by a demon over the intercom while presenting the morning announcements. The intercom microphone is located in the principal's office. He just told me to take a seat. But I'm already sitting. Don't you talk back to me. In the 3rd grade, I was writing a note to my buddy, and this girl got a hold of it as we were passing it. She wrote on the note that we were silly, so I escalated it. I wrote that she was stupid, and passed it back. She wrote that we were idiots or something, and then passed it back, and this continued for a while. By the time the note was confiscated from us, every square inch of it was covered in the most profane litany of foul garbage to come from the mind of a child. I wrote every bad word I could think of, and so did she. I remember that she was a brownie scout, and I had written brownies frick up the bus in big bold letters. My teacher was horrified. He took the note, and both of us to the principal's office. The principal gave my parents a copy, or the original. I can't remember. When they arrived, my parents were aghast. It was freaking sweet. Actually hilarious. I got written up for banging the desk with my hands every time I talked. The write-up slips just said banging the desk. My principal asked me to clear things up, so I explained to her I was not fricking a desk. In 8th grade, everyone at our school used pens as drumsticks, and any surface they could get their hands on as a drum. At one point in religion, our teacher got so sick of it she screamed, "I'm sick of banging boys." Which time? When in kindergarten, 5 years old, I would break my crayons in half, because then, in my little brain, I thought I would have twice as many. Being a friendly kid, I broke my deskmate's crayon for her to show her that now she had 2 black crayons instead of just 1. I thought it was brilliant, and wanted to pass it on. She cried. I got sent to the principal's office where I was paddled, then sent home with a note to my parents, where, again, I got spanked. Me and another kid were smashing cinder blocks that were being used to build a school annex. We heard that if we got caught messing around the construction site we would get expelled. Wanted to get expelled. Got paddled by the principal instead. I'm Middle Eastern, so my friends thought it would be funny to spread a rumor that I had a bomb strapped to my bra. Wasn't so funny when I was getting pat down by campus police in the principal's office. That's terrible. I was the only brown kid in my high school. The jokes they kept making were bad enough. I would be pretty ticked off if they did that. I was kind of a loser in early elementary school. My first day of school, I was new in town. I had no friends, and I felt like I had to prove myself. Well, some kids made fun of my Power Rangers t-shirt, featuring the Pink Ranger. It was a present from my grandmother and my mom made me wear it. So, I stood up to them and told them I could beat them up. All of us? Fat chance. I responded that I had a gang to help me. Not only that, but I was the king of gangs, and that I would get all the gangs together to beat them up during recess. I later spent recess hiding terrified in the corner somewhere before I was called into the principal's office over concerns regarding gang violence. So I guess the threat worked. TLDR Pink Ranger posse for life. I was called in and given a certificate that I was pretty proud of. It said I had skipped 100 classes that semester. The staff were annoyed that I was excited by it. Certificate. Truancy notice. We're not trying to split hairs here. I was in the Japanese language and culture club in high school. On the anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day, I convinced a group of us to go over to the American Humanities Club, which was having a meeting on the same day, and we attacked them by throwing into the room a couple dozen paper airplanes. The principal was not amused. Oh my goodness. I am in Japanese 2 this year, but last year the teacher inadvertently planned a Japanese club sushi meetup on Pearl Harbor Day. An old man and the principal weren't too happy about that. In 6th grade there was a game popular among the kids at school called Pencil Break. We were so creative. Basically you held a pencil between both of your index fingers and thumbs, and the other person tried to break your pencil by flicking theirs at yours. I found out the strongest pencils happened to be Pentec, which could be had at Kmart for $0.15 each. I saw an opportunity and I seized it. I took my allowance 1 week and spent it all on pencils. When I got to school the next day, I played a few games and offered the losers a chance to buy a Pentec for a quarter. Well, word quickly spread and kids from different classes and different grades started approaching me within a few weeks to buy pencils. The school store had some for the same price, but they broke too easily. This went on for about 2 months before I started to get some heat. I had a few close calls with teachers asking me why I had so many quarters in my pockets, or asking the class why there were so many broken pencils in their trash cans. One day, after fully restocking my inventory, I get a call to the principal's office asking me to bring all of my belongings. Here I was with $25 in pencils in my backpack and a few bucks in change. I thought I was screwed. Surely my business would be shut down and I'd be stuck with a bunch of pencils I'd likely never use. Turns out my dad had got back from an overseas deployment early and wanted to surprise me by taking me out of school early for the day. When we got out to the car, he asked why I looked so nervous walking into the principal's office. So I confessed to undermining the competition from the school supply store and propagating this game among the kids at school. He laughed, then took me out for some ice cream and bowling. I decided I didn't want to get caught either selling stuff on school grounds or stuck with a bunch of crap I couldn't get rid of, so I chose to retire from the pencil pushing business after that day. All in all, I'd say everything went okay. Long story, was expecting your profits to be tree-fiddy and your dad to be Nessie. My typing teacher told me to stop looking at the keys. I ignored her because I didn't see why I couldn't look at the keys. She got mad and said, "You'll never get a job as a secretary if you look at the keys." I said, "Good. I don't want to be a freaking secretary." I was then sent to the office. The principal, after hearing my story, switched me out of the class and gave me a study hall instead. Screw you, Miss McKay. Now I have a secretary. You wouldn't need one if you could type. I'll start. In 2nd grade, I was in a very tiny class of maybe 13 people, 12 of which were boys. Of course, being 2nd grade boys, we thought bathroom humor was absolutely hilarious. One day, our teacher handed out a worksheet with a diagram of the human body, which we had to label. Of course, it was 2nd grade appropriate. All we had to do was label the head, eyes, arms, legs, etc. I, being the hilarious jokester that I was, drew a gigantic dong on my worksheet, right between the legs, and showed it to my friends next to me, who busted out laughing, because, 2nd grade. I then labeled the rest of the worksheet, completely forgetting to erase the big ol' floppy dong sitting on the page, and hand it in to my teacher, and that is how I got sent to the principal's office. When I was a junior in high school, my history teacher gave me a good comment on getting my work done. This white trash pregnant girl in my class, who didn't like me very much, decided to start picking on me about it right after. I got pee off and she was annoyed, so we started arguing. The teacher asked me to go into the hall. I stopped at this B desk, dug out a few cents, dropped it onto her desk and said, "Here, maybe this will keep you off the street tonight. Note to self, keep spare change in pockets at all times." In 2nd grade there was a boy who wouldn't stop bothering me on the playground. This angered me. He came up and said something I don't remember, and then he ran away. As he ran, I grabbed the back of his suspenders. He continued to run and I continued to hold on to his suspenders. They stretched a lot more than I thought they would. Then I let go. He fell down. I was sent to the principal's office. My mom was proud. The boy never bothered me again. D. In the 2nd grade, I brought a knife to school for show and tell. I had no intent to harm anyone, so they just took it away and made me call my mom. I wrote a poem about nightmares and the teachers thought I was depressed. Also, I tried to cut my own hair so people would stop making fun of me because it was too long. These both happened in first grade. I crap you not. I was too early to school. My mom had to drop me off about 10 minutes early to elementary school because she has a job to do. I had to call and explain to her why I was early to school and the principal tried to tell my mom dropping me off at school too early was wrong and that it shouldn't happen again. She got a referral to the SI but nothing came of it. The time that really stands out was when I was in middle school. After being bullied, isolated and assaulted for years, I learned I was one of the physically strongest kids in my class during the first day in the weight room. To someone who had been conditioned to think of himself as lesser than, this was a huge breakthrough for me and bolstered my self-esteem to the point that when one of my regular tormentors started after me during gym I grabbed him by the throat and threw him on the ground and just wailed on him as hard as I could. The next thing I know I'm in the principal's office. My mom has been called in and I'm being told how I was being shipped off to alternative school for a month for fighting. How violence wasn't the solution. How I should have gone to a teacher. Essentially the same bulls they'd been telling me for years. And I lost it again. I went off on the principal, basically calling him a failure for allowing me to be tortured in his school, right in front of the teachers, sometimes by the teachers. I said something about the institution not protecting me so I was going to protect myself and refusing to apologize to my victim for standing up for myself. I think that meeting was the moment my parents knew I wasn't just a whiny loner, that I was really in a horrible environment because the next year I was in private school. But yeah, the image of my principal's face when I chewed him out is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of going to the principal's office. TLDR. Fought back against a bully. Principal punishes me. I freak out at principal. Transfer schools. This wasn't all in one day. We started doing weight training in the gym and I was able to bench press more than anyone else in the class. It was some time later that I got in the fight that sent me to the principal's office, but it was because of that day in the gym that I had the confidence to fight in the first place. Man, you grew some balls that day. I threw my shoe at my economics teacher. I was trying to get a rock out of my shoe, since I had just come inside, and she told me to get out of the class for taking my shoe off. So I threw it at her. She was always bullying me and losing my homework on purpose, and dealing with that over a few months made me snap. Senior year, my last class before lunch was math. Once the teacher had finished, my friends and I would eagerly stand right at the door and wait for the bell to ring, then dash out of the classroom down to the cafeteria. So this day must have been the 21st of April 1999, the day after the Columbine shooting. The school is on high alert, super high alert. The principal and vice principals are out in the hallways, including any teacher that wasn't teaching a class. For whatever reason that day, I decided to get super pumped about running down to the cafeteria. I stand at the door and say to my friends when that bell rings, I'm gonna fly out of here like a firebomb went off. The bell rings. I throw the classroom door open and yell firebomb and sprint out into the hallway. I made it about 3 strides before I run right into the principal and one of the vice principals, who grabbed both of my arms without a second thought. Got suspended for a week for that idiocy. 3rd grade was a funny time period. Remember kickball? That was the crap. Well, one time during kickball I by accident spoke in my native tongue, Tagalog. My school was 99% white, and little 3rd graders didn't know any language other than the simple colors and Spanish. A classmate of mine thought I cursed and snitched on me. I was called to the principal's office and was given a detention. As a typical Asian kid, I was scared shitless. I couldn't even fathom what punishment was going to happen. After school my mom was the one to pick me up, and I told her exactly what happened. I was standing there waiting to explode on me in front of all the other kids. My mom stormed into the principal's office and went crazy. I couldn't understand everything she was saying since I was young, but after 10 minutes of yelling she exited the office and told me to get into the car. My mom is a typical Asian mom, but for once the robotic no emotion mom I was always knew. To me that day showed her heart. One time when I was in middle school there was a broken drinking fountain in the hallway. I didn't know it was broken and went to turn it on. Right away water started gushing out all the way to the ceiling. The hallways weren't all that tall. I quickly tried to turn it off, but as I mentioned it was broken and it kept on spraying water everywhere for a while but eventually stopped. A teacher walked by and started accusing me of playing with the drinking fountain to the point where I broke it and flooded the hallway. I tried to explain myself but he wouldn't hear it, so I was off to the principal's office. Had my cell phone go off in middle school. I was balling with my Nokia Ericsson maybe, after I got a light up antennae and a cover that made it look like a flip phone with the plastic cover that covered the keys. Anyway, it went off. I got sent to the principal's office. He had me take out our agenda book thing they forced us to have and read the code of conduct out loud to him. It made no mention of cell phones, only Gamma Boys and Pegasus beepers. He laughed, gave me my phone back and said to listen to the announcements tomorrow morning. He made an announcement that cell phones were not permitted in class. Nokia 5160 or 5190 depending on carrier, with a custom face and backplate, W vibrating battery and antenna that looked like police lights. I had a few of those. The clear cases were the crap back in the day. In 8th grade, I once decided it would be funny to undo a paperclip, stick it in the eraser of my pencil, and proceed to jam it into the electrical outlet. This resulted in a loud bang, followed by sparks shooting out, and caused the power in the classrooms on that hall to go out. Wasn't so funny after the fact. Same year, same class, I was bored, and decided to ball up a piece of paper, light it on fire, and throw it across the room. I didn't get caught for that one, but it was worth mentioning. Same year, on the bus, I decided it would be funny to throw a half-filled bottle of Gatorade at an oncoming car's windshield. Couldn't ride the bus for a week after that. TLDR, I was a piece of crap. On April Fool's Day in grade 6, the class convinced me to move the clock ahead by 10 minutes. I was the only one tall enough to do it. The principal walks in as I'm in mid-turn. Pretty funny in hindsight. I had made up a dirty limerick about a teacher. Several days later that teacher was bullying a friend of mine until she burst into tears. I stood up in class and recited the limerick. I'm allergic to peanuts. My mother told my kindergarten teacher that I should be given alternative snacks if that day's snack contained nuts. But the teacher decided to simplify things by never give me a snack, ever. I would cry almost every day at snack time. Then came Halloween. We were all told to bring in a bag of candy, and I brought in Tootsie Rolls, which are peanut free and I can eat. The teacher poured all the candy into a plastic cauldron to make witch's brew and then had us each come up to fill a paper plate with the potion. When it was my turn she bypassed me. I asked for my Tootsie Rolls back, to which she replied that I couldn't have them now that they'd been in with everything else. Cue screaming, table pounding, floor kicking, snot flowing tantrum. I had to be carried to the office. I think the principal decided to just kick sand over the whole thing, because my parents were never notified and all he did to me was smile, tell me not to do it again, and send me back to class. All I could think as I read this was OMG, that is possibly the saddest thing I've heard. Here's a funny but true story from my childhood. Winter, about 10 years ago in school, there was about 20 people messing with the snow on the grass and throwing snowballs near the school. I was never good at socializing in my early teens. I decided to participate and began rolling a snowball. I spent about 10 minutes rolling a lot of snow into a small ball. With a baseball-like stance, I pitched the ball at the crowd of people. The snowball missed everyone and went straight through a window. The snowball didn't leave any glass behind. All it left behind were shocked faces looking at me. I put my head down and walked to the principal's office. So I broke the window with a snowball. In hindsight the principal was kind but definitely skeptical of that sentence. He left me off with no punishment in the end. I think you admitting what you did saved you. 3rd grade, I was the teacher's pet. I have no clue how I got the position, but I would be the only kid allowed to work on jigsaw puzzles while everyone else had to do assignments. Every other day I was allowed to pick a friend to eat McDonald's with and watch Ninja Turtles while the other kids had mundane public school lunch in the cafeteria. The power consumed me, and I guess one day I wanted to act cool, so I mockingly repeated everything the teacher said. She could sense that this child needed to be put in his place and sent me to the principal's office. It was my first time meeting the principal and I was scared shitless of what he might do. Namely, call my parents. He didn't. He told me what I did was rude and if I now knew that. I said yes, and he brought out a game of battleships from under his desk and we played for half an hour before he sent me back to my teacher. I continued being the teacher's pet the rest of the year. TLDR. Got fresh. Played battleship. This sounds like the kids who don't have the mental capacity to do all the things the other kids are doing. So they get to do much simpler things, and the only reason they get to choose a friend is so they don't feel alone. But yeah, we'll go with teacher's pet. That sounds nicer anyway. I took too much Xanax and fell out of my chair in Spanish class. Horrible part is that the principal didn't realize how fricked up I was. Sent me back to class, giving me time to grab the drugs in my locker and throw them away. English teacher sent me back and I got a 3-day ISS, but heck yeah for avoiding a ticket. I was a really dumb teenager. Teacher put on a movie about slavery and turned down the lights. She started grading papers and lost track of time. Looked up and said, "My, it's dark in here." I responded with, "That's not nice. That's just humorous. Like, come on." It was a tradition of sorts in our school to set up dung bombs, little plastic bags filled with chemicals that can be set off and emit a foul odor, on the last day before the school broke for summer vacations. In my 10th grade, last school grade in India, I wanted to do something grand since it was the last day of mine in the school. About a month in advance, I told all the guys in the class about the dung bomb project. Everyone decided to contribute money so that we could get multiple bombs. We made a small box for collections. Some dong labeled it dung bomb donations. He also added special thanks to and my name. The teacher saw it, instantly understood what it was since she had seen us do that for the last few years. My last month in school was spent doing detentions. In middle school, I was heavily bullied. I don't remember why because it's been so long, but after pay, we were to change back into our regular school clothes from our gym clothes. I was surrounded by 4 guys who proceeded to give me what would now be described as an ultra-atomic wedgie, all lifting me off the group by my underwear, to the point where I was screaming and crying for help. Gym teacher didn't come. Well, there I was, curled up on the ground, in a pool of tears and drool afterwards, and found by a fellow student, sent to the principal's office and had to write down my account of what happened. I named my bullies and we all served ISS, in school suspension, together. Why I got in trouble is beyond me. Zero tolerance bulls. Whenever there's a fight, all participants get punished. I personally never experienced that. In my experience, the teachers simply didn't punish anyone and allowed it to continue. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.